Hello, my name is Ya Cao. Today I want to talk to you about how many people did God kill in the Bible. On YouTube, there is a rather vocal atheist who calls himself Friendly Atheist. His real name is Hermit Mehta. He has made so many videos slandering God and the Bible. One of his videos is over 2 hours long, called How Many People Did God Kill in the Bible? If you watch the video, you will find that he wasted so much of his viewers' time counting up numbers. That is why it takes more than 2 hours to watch this very boring video. Most people would rather spend the time watching some Hollywood movies instead. Today I want to show you that this little video of mine, about 10 minutes, will let you know all his effort has been a total waste. I feel sorry for those who sit through and watch his long video. Also, it is funny that Mr. Mehta claims to be an atheist. By the definition of atheist, he believes that God does not exist. Why would anyone spend so much time slandering the non-existent God as a career? He has quit his job for a long time doing that, and I wonder who is paying his bills for food and housing. The fact that he is willing to spend so much time slandering God, his action surely indicates that God must exist. The reason for doing so is because he doesn't like the existing God. That is why he is so determined to tell the world how much he hates God. There's another atheist named Documenter2525 who made a similar video called Is God Actually the Villain? Both of them say that God had killed so many. I made a video to debunk him. God indeed had killed many, but that doesn't make God a villain, as we should see. I encourage you to watch it. I have provided the link below in the description area. Let me replay the most important part of the video now. First of all, what is a villain? How do you judge who is the biggest villain? Did he do the most killing to be the biggest villain? Actually, this is not a very simple subject. If someone causes others to be killed, a villain? In the 1970s, there was a serial killer in the US by the name of Ted Bundy. He kidnapped, raped, and killed many women. He was a villain indeed. He was later executed in the electric chair at Florida State Prison on January 24, 1989. He was a villain, but the judge who sentenced him to death is not a villain. The judge had enforced the law and handed it down the execution to take his life, and yet no one considers him as a villain. Therefore, it is very clear that not everyone who cause others to lose their lives are villains. Secondly, when you decide who is the villain, it actually depends on which side you are in. In the Second World War, Dwight Eisenhower was the Allied commander who was responsible to wipe out the Nazi military, consequently had annihilated many German lives. Hitler, on the other hand, with the blood of 6 million Jews on his hands, also killed many lives. After the war, many Nazis escaped secretly to Brazil and Argentina, hoping to regroup someday. Everyone today considers Hitler was the villain, but if you ask those Nazis who was the villain among the two, they would surely tell you Eisenhower was the one, not Hitler. Do you get what I'm trying to say? When you are in a different group, you will come up with a different answer. As you can see, killing doesn't necessarily indicating someone is bad, because righteous people also kill for good reasons to uphold justice. God created mankind. He made them with a purpose, and he has expectations of men as well. God is also a righteous God. The definition of God's righteousness is that He does not leave the guilty unpunished. Guilty people will be punished for their sins. The Bible simply documents what God has done. The killing of bad people demonstrates that God indeed is a righteous God. However, the annoying atheists don't like God. They're just like the Nazi who escaped to Brazil and Argentina, as mentioned in the video I just replayed, because deep down in their hearts, they know their sin will be punished someday. What should be your attitude when you know God punishes the guilty? First of all, the Bible is for the living, not for the dead. The sinners who have been punished already should not be your concern. Our concern should be, what can we do to avoid being punished? In Mehta's video, he did not mention 2 killings because he either neglected or is too ignorant to understand their significance. One was an attempted killing and the other was a premeditated killing. The unsuccessfully attempted killing was recorded in Bible Genesis chapter 22. The story goes like this. Among all men, God chose Abraham, ancestor of the Jewish people, to reveal the salvation of mankind to the world. God blessed him with a promised land and also a son, Isaac, at his old age in a miracle. God also blessed him with many things all along, telling him he will bless all men through his son, Isaac. But when Isaac was a teenager, God gave Abraham an unthinkable command to test him, as it is written in Genesis chapter 22, verse 1 to 2. Sometimes later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abraham, here I am," he replied. Then God said, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you." As you read it, you can't stop thinking, why would God want him to do that? The Jewish people have the ritual of sacrifice animals to worship God and to redeem sinners. But this time, God wanted him to kill his son and burn his son's body on an altar. What was amazing is that Abraham actually followed God's command and was about to kill his son. However, at the critical moment, the angel of God shouted it out, as recorded in Genesis chapter 22, 11 to 12. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." God somehow changed his mind. Then God substituted his son with a ram, as written in the Bible in Genesis chapter 22, verse 13 to 14. Abraham looked up, and there is a thicket. He saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. Therefore, Isaac's life was spared and substituted by a ram. From then on, God gave Abraham the greatest blessing for doing what God commanded him to in Genesis chapter 22, verse 16 to 18, and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you, so and so." And later on he said, "Because you have obeyed me." Most people will not know why God gave Abraham such a blessing until you understand another God's killing Mr. Mehta did not mention, which was Jesus, who was crucified on a cross about 2,000 years ago in Israel. The significance of the crucifixion of Son of God, Jesus, is that God used his only Son to take the punishment for all the sinners, like the ram substituting the life of Abraham's son, Isaac. As described in the Bible, Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 24, the next day John saw Jesus coming toward him and said, "Look, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." God has already done, because of his love to us, using his Son Jesus to substitute for all sinners, so that we have the chance to escape the punishment of sin. The killing was premeditated, because according to the Bible, before God created the world, God had come up with a salvation plan that God's Son would take this punishment for every sinner. That is why I said the sentence of the guilty was executed on the Son of God about 2,000 years ago. Therefore, we don't need to receive the punishment. What pleased God was that Abraham was willing to do what God would do way before it was done, the sacrificing of his beloved Son. That pleased God so much because the person he had chosen understood his mind and was willing to do the same. Therefore, God granted such a great blessing to Abraham. Because Mr. Mehta's prejudice and his habit of reading the Bible out of context, there's no way he could figure out the profound meaning of God's salvation written in the Bible. In Mr. Mehta's video, he mentioned the great flood that killed all men and animals at the time except Noah's family. But he used his usual out-of-context tactic to fail to tell us why. In Genesis 6:5 it says, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of human heart was only evil all the time." Because men at that time were extremely wicked, the guilty need to be judged. Therefore, the judgment of the great flood came upon the earth. But God instructed Noah to spend 120 years to build an ark, and used this whole time to urge people to come into the ark. Whoever was willing to get in the ark would be saved from the judgment of the flood. The story of Noah's ark symbolized God's salvation. God's grace provides whoever will humble himself to believe in God's salvation will escape the eternal judgment. Therefore, the right approach of looking at God's killing is the following. We need to know that the Bible is for the living, but not for the dead. As we read all those examples, we need to find a way to avoid being killed. At the same time, to find salvation instead. If you allow Mr. Mehta to mislead you, you will lose big. In my channel, I have a playlist showing the existence of God. That is understandable because God has given us ample evidence. Those are: 1. Atheism is unrealistic. It shows that atheists don't have a thread of evidence about God does not exist. 2. The death knell of evolution. Some people don't believe in God because they believe in evolution. I use the most basic biology and the probability to show evolution is totally wrong. 3rd one, use your brain to know God exists. The proper approach of knowing God exists is not by seeing or hearing, it is by using cause and effect. 4th, the death knell of atheism. It is a logical conclusion that God must exist. The 5th one, the scientific evidence of the existence of God. Finally, I provide some scientific evidence to show God must exist. If you watch them, you will know the existence of God is understandable and the atheism is wrong. Also, another playlist about the Bible. The first one, why is Bible the Bible? Why do people believe the Bible is the revelation of God? Second, some amazing example in the Bible. From those examples, you will know God not only exists, but also amazingly so. Third, what is the source of wisdom? We will examine history to see the Bible really gives us wisdom. If you watch them, you will know how remarkable the Bible is and why the Bible is the best-selling book in history. Last but not least, why are people sinners? Fundamental problem for all of us. Second, what is the consequence of sinners? This is very important to know. Third, what is the gospel? This playlist explains how can we escape hell. All the links are provided below in the description area. In my channel, there are also other videos you might find interesting. If you have any question, comments, even criticism, please feel free to contact me. My email address is belcantog@gmail.com. Thank you for watching, and may God richly bless you.